What's going on, Walking Dead family? This is my review for The Walking Dead Season 11, Episode 6, titled On the Inside. By far, the scariest Walking Dead episode of all time. It really is. With Connie, with these new creatures, which we'll get into, but probably the best episode of the season. Probably. We're 6 episodes in. This is the last season. This was by far the best. And that's not saying the other 5 were poor or anything, not at all. I enjoyed them, they were very good, but there was something different about this episode, directed by Greg Nicotero, who of course has an amazing horror background. But some of the directing tricks in this episode were just fantastic, which we'll get into. But yeah, we opened the episode with Virgil and Connie. They're running away from something. Now, there is some time period that they never really went into about, when Virgil first found Connie, what have they been doing since then? I suppose we get to see later in the episode the notepad. There's a little bit of information on that, but there's a lot of time there kind of skipped over. But they're running away from something, and it's not walkers, it's not natural people, because these things were kind of crawling through the grass, and then you're thinking, is it a pig, is it a boar, is it some sort of animal? But then later in the episode we actually find out. But they come across this house, and this house looks pretty safe. It's boarded up. Let's get into the house. They go into the house. Seems safe. There's walkers outside of it, of course, but look, they can't get in. But little do they know, Virgil and Connie, that this is actually the house of those creatures. Now, just before we get into that whole aspect inside that house, let's go over to the storyline with Daryl and the Reapers. Of course, Daryl is undercover with the Reapers right now because he was kind of captured by them. So now he's playing with them, saying, look, I don't know that group, which is Maggie, which is Negan, which is Father Gabriel. I was just, getting some supplies out of them. I was just running with them to just use them for supplies and stuff like that. I'm not friends with them. They're not my family. They're not my community. I don't care about them. So Daryl is now a Reaper. He's gone through kind of the testing from Pope in terms of the fire, saving Leah. So Daryl's trying to take down this group from the inside. And now we have Frost, who was a part of Maggie's group. And he's being tortured for information. You have Pope there, you have the other Reapers there, and they're trying to find out exactly where Maggie is. And they want Maggie for some specific reason. We don't know what it is right now. I'm sure we'll find out. But they really want Maggie and her community. But Daryl is given the task to torture Frost. And of course, Daryl is acting, Frost is acting as well, because Frost knows that Daryl is undercover. So Daryl rips his nail off and then has to cut his finger off, which is absolutely terrible. And fair play to Frost, he's being a champ, he's taking all this punishment to, keep Maggie and the group safe, but he gives up the house. And that's what Daryl kind of wanted them to do as well. He wanted them to give up the location of where Maggie was at, so then they could get there. Daryl could warn them or maybe help them fight against the Reapers. So they get to the location and Daryl is able to make some noise. He's trying to cause a disruption without the Reapers knowing he is, so that Maggie maybe will be able to hear him, or Negan, or one of them. And actually Maggie does. So the Reapers with Carver, with Leah, with Daryl, they go into this house that Frost described. They see that somebody was here. They're guessing it's Maggie's group. They're looking around, but they can't really find them. And Daryl wants them to move on because he knows that Maggie, Negan, Elijah, and Gabriel are underground in the basement. He sees the kind of door. And he's afraid that Carver will as well. So he tries to say, look, I can hunt them down. Let's just leave. Let's get out of here. And Carver's like, you're very quick to leave here. You hiding something? You want to tell us something? So those two kind of have a confrontation. And you have Leah saying, look, I don't need this shit. I need us to work together. Let's find these. They're not here. Let's move on. And it gives Maggie, Elijah, Negan, and Gabriel enough time to escape safely. But just before that, Daryl was able to describe the group to Maggie and Negan, who were obviously listening in the basement. What is there, 20 of you guys? So now Maggie and Negan know what numbers they're up against and they can prepare for that. But let's go back to the star of the show, Connie. Her acting was absolutely magnificent in this episode. But Kelly actually got to find some of her items. She found her bag, her slingshot, but most importantly, her notebook. I think she was kind of jotting down stuff while she was with Virgil, while she was trapped in the caves, because Virgil is the key for everybody knowing where Michonne is. And even later in the episode, we will get a Michonne reference. And Michonne's been mentioned so many times this season in terms of with the kids, now with Virgil, because she has gone to find Rick. She found that new group that we got to see when she left in her last episode last season. So it's all connecting and tying together perfectly. So look, in this house, I have to say, this is the scariest Walking Dead episode ever. It was magnificent. I loved it. Some of the camera tricks by Greg Nicotero in terms of, because Connie's a deaf character. She can't hear, obviously. And we're actually put into her point of view in this episode because she knows there's something up. She knows that there's something in this house watching them, following them. And her anxiety is sky high. And then as a viewer, your anxiety is so high as well. But then, you're put into Connie's situation where she is deaf and you have to live as her for a few seconds in this episode where she can't hear anything, but you just know that there's something up. And these creatures, these monsters, I don't know what they really are. Of course they're humans, they're not walkers. There was people out there theorizing that, oh my god, a completely new walker is coming to the Walking Dead universe. Not yet, that may happen in the CRM in terms of World Beyond and the Rick movies maybe down the line, but right now these people, if you want to call them that, were just kind of feral. They were creatures. They crawled. They definitely were cannibals, going back to Terminus, but these guys were even more insane. They crawled. There was men, there was women. I don't know if there was any children, but they seemed to be a family or a community, and they just kind of crawl. It was just creepy to look at them, and the score in this episode was brilliant. It just really drove your anxiety so high, and the shock value in this episode, the jump scares of these creatures, of cutting back into silence with Connie, but then back into sound. But this wasn't any old house. There was passages through the walls. They were able to slide completely new doors over hallways, and they trap Virgil on his own and Connie on her own to try and probably isolate them so they could attack them and then eat them. So this house was just a house of horrors. It really was. But the acting from both actors was brilliant. Absolutely insane. And it just shows you, one actor, of course, can hear and speak, Virgil, and the other actor, Connie, can't do those things, but her facial expressions, the way she moved, the way she reacted to things was just fantastic. So 10 out of 10. I love this episode. Thought it was magnificent. These creatures were insane. They have yellow eyes as well. That's the one shot in the episode where Connie is looking through a hole and she sees an eye and it's all yellow, and then people were thinking, oh, maybe it's different. It's a different walker. These people aren't eating right. They're definitely, their liver is probably damaged. Their organs, everything is just damaged by these people, and they're living by this new kind of development of human beings by crawling, by eating other human beings. It's just completely sick and absolutely insane. But yeah, definitely the scariest episode. And looking at some of the reactions on Twitter watching this episode, everybody was loving this. They just fell in love with this episode in terms of how scary it was. And Connie, absolute genius. She lured the walkers into the house, but just before that, she covered herself in blood, so then the walkers would just walk by them, and the creatures were probably too weak, and they weren't able to, come up with a strategy. They got eaten by the walkers, So they're not really that strong. I think their tactic is, crawling, going through those walls, isolating a person on their own, but then when they're met with a group of people, or in this instance, walkers, they can't really fight back as well, So, but very smart from Connie. And, the interaction between Connie and Virgil in this episode was fantastic. He talked about his purpose in life was to, save somebody else, because Michonne kind of saved him, brought him back, because he was crazy. He was giving people drugs and, he had them in cells. He was just completely too far gone. But Michonne kind of brought him back. And his new purpose now is to find maybe her community or to help other people. I know he found Connie, who was from Michonne's community. So that's his purpose. That's why, Michonne spared him, or that's why Michonne brought him back to the light, was that he could save Connie and reunite Connie with her family. And that's exactly what he does. I like this actor that plays Virgil. I like Virgil as a character in The Walking Dead. I want him to survive. I did think he would die in this episode, but he didn't. I know he got, stabbed by these creatures, but he will probably survive, which I'm happy with, because he is that connective tissue to Michonne, who is going to find Rick, and now he can maybe tell the rest of the group some information about Michonne. And of course, Judith knows where her mother is gone as well to find Rick. So hopefully it all ties together before the end of this season. Maybe Andrew Lincoln can return, I don't know. Maybe Denai Guerrera, who plays Michonne, can return, I don't know. Or maybe it will just set up the movies even more. But yeah, I will definitely rewatch this episode because I thought the sequences within the house with these creatures, something that we've never seen before. Like, this isn't from the comic books. This is a completely original idea from Angela Kang, the showrunner of The Walking Dead, and the writers, and I loved it. I want to see more of this stuff. I know it's the last season, but this was unique. It was different. It was scary. The score was brilliant. The point of view of being in Connie's shoes, being deaf, was very, very interesting. These creatures were scary. Even one of them spoke. I think he said hungry, or something like that, because this is how they live. They live like animals, and they prey on people and they eat them. And lucky that Connie was able to use her head and avoid the situation. But it just shows you like how much of a badass she is to survive this long in the zombie apocalypse. Because I didn't really realize until, wow, she really can't hear anything. She has to use her surroundings to survive, and she survived this long, not able to talk to people and stuff like that. That's crazy. That's absolutely insane. So she's a badass character, and I really do like Connie. And to be honest, I know people want Daryl and Carol to get together, and now we have Daryl kind of with Leah, which I don't think will last too long. Maybe it will, I'm not too sure, but I want him to be with Connie. And by the end of the episode, in a very emotional scene, she is reunited with Kelly. So it's good to see those two characters back together again. And Connie, the actress who plays Connie, the reason she wasn't in the show for so long was because she was shooting the Marvel movie Eternals, which is coming out later this year. I think it's coming in November, and the trailer for that looked pretty good. Go check it out if you haven't. But she's going to be in that as a superhero, so that's awesome. I love that. You've got Michonne, the actress that plays Michonne. She's in Black Panther. Jeffrey Dean Morgan was in Batman v Superman, and now you have Connie, who was in a big, massive Marvel movie, Eternals, and even Aaron, who played Red Skull in Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. So the Walking Dead cast is doing pretty well for themselves, but they always come back to the Walking Dead universe, and we love that so much. Look, I don't know what to expect for Connie for the rest of the season. I know a lot of people out there want to see Daryl and Carol get together as kind of a couple, and they will have a spin-off show that's coming in 2023. And now Daryl is with Leah, but I don't know if that's going to last too long. But the actress that plays Leah got upgraded to a season regular. So I don't know what's going on with Daryl and his love interests, but I personally would love to see Daryl and Connie. But then we go back to the Reapers, and Frost has been killed by Pope. He's now a walker, tied to this tree or this pole, very similar to that walker we got to see Negan look at that had Judas, written above it. And Pope then smiles at Daryl. Is this more mind games? Is this another test? Or did Frost tell Pope everything? But why would Frost do that? I think it's just Pope, mind games with Daryl, because Daryl got to cut Frost's finger off and he didn't say anything, but then Daryl leaves and now Pope is able to get more information out of him. I don't know. I just don't think so. I think that Pope is messing with Daryl big time, but we'll see. He just smiles at Daryl and walks away, and now Daryl is very, very paranoid, and he has a right to be, because Pope is insane. That one Reaper, he threw him in the fire. Daryl does not want that whatsoever. But guys, that was my review for episode 6. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know below. Don't forget to give a like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to check out my review for episode 5 and the previous 5 episodes, go check that out on the channel. And next week's episode, we will see the return of the Whisperer's mask. It looks like that Negan will use the tactics that Alpha taught him against the Reapers, and this is going to be awesome. Maggie and Negan wearing Whisperer masks. Insane. I love how our survivors are now using previous tactics from previous villains. A mixture of Negan, a mixture of the Whisperers, Rick's tactics, all coming together. That's pretty awesome. Don't forget to subscribe, guys, and follow me on all my social media accounts at Movies That Matter. Guys, see you for the next video. Enjoy. This episode was badass.